Commission on Chicago Landmarks. Today's date, July 7th. Do the roll call of commission members. Vice Chair Commissioner Dekowitz.
Present.
Commissioner Boatright. Commissioner Blakely.
Present.
Commissioner Burns.
Present.
Commissioner Fair.
Present.
Commissioner Ponce.
Present.
Commissioner Rubin.
Present.
Commissioner Tolliver. Present. And I am Commissioner Wong. We do have a quorum. Full house today. This is great. I'd like to ask anyone wishing to make a statement on today's agenda to complete a public comment card and give the card to a member of the staff. Comment cards are available at the door. As a courtesy to other individuals wishing to offer comments, we ask that members of the general public limit your statements to 3 minutes or less. When the time comes for a public comment on the individual item on the agenda, I'll call names on the cards and ask you to come forward. Well, stand up to make your statement. At that time, please state your name and interest, organization, or company you represent, if any. I want to make this really clear that we would like you to stay on point to the agenda items. If you, and what will not be tolerated in this chambers are any personal attacks on any individual in this room. And if so, if that does occur, you will be asked to leave. And so I just wanted to clarify that. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting of June 4th. Are there any comments from the commission? Those were addressed in your packages. If none, I should like to request a motion to approve the minutes. We'll move Commissioner Fair and second by Commissioner Burns. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The motion carries unanimously. The second agenda item is a preliminary landmark recommendation for the First Emmanuel Lutheran Church in the 27th Ward. This is located at 1124 South Ashland Avenue. And Matt, you got the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Members of the Commission, your consideration today is a new MR recommendation for First Emmanuel Lutheran Church. It's a Gothic revival building from 1888, built by a congregation which has a 172-year history on the near west side. And that is, as we know, very, very long for Chicago. 2 years ago, the congregation listed the building in the National Register of Historic Places. They took that initiative. And having done that, they would now like to pursue Chicago landmark recognition. They're doing this really to honor their long history on the near west side, which we'll get into. So the church is located obviously on the near west side. It's approximately 2.5 miles southwest of here. It's in Alderman Burnett's ward, and he's been briefed and he supports the proposal. Closer view shows the building on the east side of Ashland near Roosevelt, which gives the building a very, very visible location given that it's so highly traveled. You can see from this map that the building is surrounded by much larger buildings, and that reflects the church's setting within the Illinois Medical District. And that's part of its context that we'll see later in the presentation. So we recommend the building meets 2 criteria for landmark designation, including number 1 for heritage, which points up to the congregation's long presence on the near west side, as that neighborhood really changed dramatically over time. They stayed. So the congregation was founded in 1854 as First Emmanuel Church. It was now known as Emmanuel Lutheran Church. It's the second oldest Lutheran congregation in Chicago. It was organized by 10 German families living in the near west side. And they began worshiping in a log structure at the northwest corner of Roosevelt and Blue Island, roughly where St. Ignatius High School is. In 1857, the congregation was growing, and they replaced the little log building with this larger frame church, which you see on the left in the slide. And about 30 years later, the congregation was growing still. They had outgrown the frame church, and members were moving farther west. That western movement was a dynamic that continued. So the congregation acquired land 3/4 of a mile west on Roosevelt Road for a new church. They commissioned architect Frederick Alshawer He was a favorite among the city's German community and designed Germans and and he rendered it over here in 1888. The design is a distinctive example of his ecclesiastical work. It's obviously character defining for Gothic revival. So when they completed the church in 1888, membership had peaked at 3,000 people. However, the years that followed the construction of the new building marked the beginning of a long period of decline and change that would continue through the 20th century. By the turn of the 20th century, so the 19 teens and 20s, the area's German ethnic community was moving west and to the suburbs, and they were succeeded by Jewish, Italian, and Greek immigrants who were in turn succeeded by African Americans during the Great Migration, as well as Latino immigrants who came to work in Chicago. Interesting photograph, I think around the 1940s, where you see a lot of change in the urban setting. By this time, the church was really at a crossroads. The student enrollment at its parish school had dwindled considerably, and they had to close the school. Many of the remaining German ethnic congregants were now living in the suburbs. And in April 1947, the church, as many churches did, began to explore the possibility of moving out of the city into the suburbs. In 1948, the congregation met with the Missouri Synod, the regional governing body of churches, and Pastor Andrew Schultz of the Synod made the case that the church should remain in the city and minister to the new residents around it. And that was not an easy decision within the congregation. While deciding whether to stay or move, the congregation in 1949 began to find itself surrounded by the rapidly expanding Illinois Medical District, as shown in this aerial, which is kind of a combination of a photograph and a rendering, with the church highlighted in green, which is really at the edge of the medical district. The district purchased and demolished the congregation's vacated school building, and as well as you can see a large swath of residential buildings west of Ashland Avenue to accommodate the new medical developments. And the medical district encouraged the congregation to stay and minister to the students and staff that were moving to the area. To prepare First Emmanuel as what they hoped to be the quote medical center of Lutheran Church, the Lutheran denomination helped the congregation fund the construction of a modern parish hall addition, which could be used to host student activities, which is the 1952 building at right in this photo. So ministry to the medical community was fine and good, and but the church's response to the changing community that lay outside the confines of the medical district remained unresolved. And that began to change in 1953 when Ralph Mollering, an energetic young Lutheran minister, was offered the pastorate at First Emmanuel. Mollering, right in this slide, was skeptical that the church could rely solely on the medical district and ignore ministry to the neighborhood residents right outside his doors. Right outside the doors was the Avila Homes, which was located just a few blocks from the church, and this is where they began their outreach. First Emmanuel focused much of its early integration programming in encouraging neighborhood kids to attend Sunday school. Donald Becker, who served as pastor for First Emmanuel from 1958 to 1996, explained that, quote, before long, parents, especially mothers, began to investigate why their children liked Sunday school they were attending. One or both of the parents took adult instruction classes and then joined church, which you can see in that 1956 class of new members. There were also Latinos on the near west side. In 1956, First Emmanuel began outreach to that community In addition to holding worship services in Spanish, classes in English were offered in the church's new parish center. In 1958, Donald Becker succeeded Ralph Muller as pastor, and he maintained the gradual work of integration. It wasn't easy, both within the congregation and also within the larger Lutheran governing organization. By the mid-1960s, he said that an average Sunday would find more than 200 people at English worship and 50 at Spanish. As the civil rights movement gained steam, Becker placed Latino and Black members in leadership positions at Emmanuel and began to engage with the civil rights organizations that were taking root around the church on the Near West Side. The congregation participated in many of the marches and rallies associated with the Chicago Freedom Movement. That was the Southern Christian Leadership Conference's first major civil rights campaign outside of the Deep South in Chicago in 1966. On July 7th, 1966, the church hosted a rally led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in support of the movement. We've seen in other churches that did this. This was not an easy thing to do in 1966. A lot of churches were really, really nervous about hosting Dr. King. Emmanuel did, and one of the things that it did for Emmanuel was really marked a turning point in their integration efforts. It really firmly cemented that direction of the church. So that's some of the history. We also think the building meets criteria for architecture. Criteria number 4 has a Gothic Revival church from 1888. You can see here at the front of the building, it's an imposing rusticated limestone facade with a real visible presence on Ashland. The facade is organized into a tripartite design with a square bell tower at its northeast end or right, a steeply pitched gable at the center, and a shorter tower at the other end. A few details. Vertical piers and a steep gable mark the main entrance portico, which contains the original paneled doors of the church. Detail the pointed arch windows at right show the building's Joliet limestone with its warm color and sugary texture. A very large rose window at the front is a restoration based on the original window, which this restoration was completed in 2011 by the congregation, something that they should be very proud of. The original window was damaged in the 1940s in a storm, and the opening for many years was filled with concrete blocks, as you can see in the photo at left. We all know that secondary elevations on churches can be pretty plain, but still at an angle there's some visual interest and something to say. These really strongly engaged piers and a round turret at the corner, all done up in common brick. Here's the bright interior of the church. It's well preserved, a long nave with a barrel vaulted ceiling and rib vaulting above the upper level seating galleries. With regards to integrity, we believe the church has a significant physical intactness after almost 140 years on Ashland. Here's a historic photo from around 1900 and the current. And you can see that the spire that originally topped the north bell tower was removed around 1919 after showing signs of deterioration, and the smaller roof on the other tower was also removed sometime after 1960. And we see this a lot in churches in Chicago, where these wood frame elements really exposed to the weather just don't survive. The loss of these are pretty common, and it doesn't really prepare what the church has to say about history or architecture. So to wrap up, we'd like to recommend the significant features being all exterior elevations, including roof lines. We'd also like to exclude the one-story parish hall from the sleeping features. That's the one-story building at the right of the photo from 1952. As I mentioned earlier, the congregation is requesting Chicago landmark designation. I think there may be a representative here from First Amendment. Happy to answer.
Thank you, Matt. Does the commission have any questions for that? Anyone? Is there a member from the church that would like to speak? Please.
I'm Carol Evans, and I'm the secretary of the church council. I just want to say that this Sunday, we will be celebrating the 60th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s visit to our church with a special liturgy and a much larger fellowship than we usually have. So I would like to personally extend an invitation to each and every one of you to join us at 10:30 this Sunday.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions of the applicant? If none, I'll go to public comments. And Ward, you've signed up to speak.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'm Ward Miller. I'm the Richard H. Treehouse Executive Director of the nonprofit group Preservation Chicago. This is a fine quality landmark building, really representing a cornerstone of the near west side, along with a couple of other nearby institutions, which this one was sort of adjacent to once upon a time. That'd be Holy Family Church and St. Ignatius College Prep. But, most importantly, this is a landmark for all. It represents so many of the immigrants and individuals and people that came through the near west side community. And as you go down Ashland Avenue, this is really a monumental building. It's a restoration of its rose window was well noted in 2011. And at that time, actually, Preservation Chicago did reach out to the pastor and encouraged a landmark designation, realizing that this building is truly a landmark in the community and a landmark for the city. It's a fabulous building built out of that Joliet limestone and designed by Frederick Altschuler that did so many wonderful houses of worship and public buildings for the German community in Chicago. And it really does represent a corner of the near west side that has just seen so much loss over time to expansion of university facilities, the medical center, and of course, a changing community. And how amazing is it that on the 60th anniversary of Dr. King's speech and visit here, that we're looking at a landmark designation of this church. So really, really wonderful. Something for everybody here, and that's what landmarks is all about. So with that, I just wrap up my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ward. Nobody else has signed up to speak. Therefore, if there's no other further discussion, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the preliminary landmark recommendation for the First Emmanuel Lutheran Church located at 1124 South Ashland Avenue. Is there a motion? Commissioner Boatright moves. Second. Second, Commissioner Fair. Do the roll call. Commissioner Deckowitz.
Yes.
Commissioner Blakely. Commissioner Burns.
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce.
Yes.
Commissioner Rubin.
Yes.
Commissioner Culliver. Yes. And I am a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. The third item on the agenda is the report from the Department of Planning and Development and the final landmark recommendations of the shop building at Aldgeld Gardens. This is in 10th Ward, located at 13100 South Ellis Avenue. We have two steps to cover this agenda item. First, we're going to hear from Commissioner Boatright of DPD, and then I'll call on Matt Crawford for the final landmark recommendation. Commissioner Boatright.
Sure, thank you. The proposed designation of the shop buildings at Aldgeld Gardens does not raise any concerns or issues from a planning perspective. So I do not have a formal report for the commission, but I would like to state for the record that I recommend approval of his designation.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will, any public comments? Let's see, yeah, we'll do the public comments. Starting with Andrea Jousty.
Oh, we just have one, Demaria.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
there's, support.
okay. Marty, you stand up and state your name, please?
Hello, everyone. My name is Demario Gloucester, and I am 14 years old. I've been in By the Hand Club for 9 years. I'm also a part of By the Hand Bow and Harvest program, which is a youth leadership development and entrepreneurship program where we grow food in our community through the container. I'm going into my freshman year, and I'm here in support of this project because of what it means for our past, present, and future. For our past, making the Uptop Theater a historic landmark preserves our roots as community. I'm proud of being from Allgale because of the opportunities my community has to offer, and with the form of businesses, advocates, and the memorial wall up top shows this history. For the present, this is something my community wants. I chose to miss a field trip to the Pokemon exhibit to be at this important meeting on behalf of my community. I want my community to thrive, have beautiful resources and spaces for all kids to have fun. More kids will be able to be in programs like I am, and Bow and Harvest will have some more space to grow food for our community. For the future, this project unifies my community. Because when I think about unity, I think about keeping my community together as one. Not just spiritually or historically, but brings us together in a new place that we can all call home. Knowing that up top is still there and there's an incredible future ahead for other kids that get to be a part of By the Hand after I graduate.
Thank you. Rodney Williams is, noting in favor of the project, as well as, Andrea Johnson. Ward, you also signed up to speak on that?
Yes, for the record, Commissioner Ward Miller, Treehouse Executive Director of the nonprofit group Preservation Chicago. Preservation Chicago has been working in Elk Gardens with the community, with Cheryl Johnson and people for community healing, if you will. And up top was our 2022 poster child. It was that important. It's a Keck and Keck building from 1945. It was once the center of the community and an amazing building that was really forward thinking. And it has been empty for a long time, and it was really facing an uncertain future. And I want to thank the City of Chicago, Commission on Chicago Landmarks, PCR, and the community for coming together to recognize the importance of this building. And to see it landmark really is very, very special. So thank you.
Thank you. Matt, the floor is yours.
Great. I couldn't add too much to all of this, but last month you voted in favor of a preliminary recommendation for the shop building. The owner of By the Hand Club for Kids, which recently purchased the building, has consented to designation, so now you can consider a final recommendation to the City Council. It's in Riverdale, on the far side of Chicago, in the 10th Ward. Alderman Chico is support. Closer view of the building shows it on a fan-shaped block in Altgeld, which was the kind of the commercial core of the development. So, as Ward said, the building's been vacant for many years, and you can see that in the photo at top. The current condition hasn't functioned for a period of time, but it's a really important building to Altgeld, as we'll see. As you've heard, the proposed landmark designation is coupled with a planned rehab and addition to the building, which you can see in the rendering below in this slide. The new owner, By the Hand Club for Kids, it's a nonprofit. They operate after-school programs for kids. And as you've heard, they want to repurpose the building into a youth center with a new gymnasium. So last month, you found the building meets 5 of the 7 criteria for landmark designation, including heritage. Heritage values of Altgeld are really inextricable from Altgeld Gardens, the larger public housing complex for which it was built, which you can see in this historic aerial. When Altgeld was established in 1945, the Calumet River area was one of the largest centers of steelmaking in the country. And so that industry was obviously really important to our effort in World War II. And it was really one of the factors for the establishment of Altgeld Gardens. It was the last and largest of the defense worker housing projects constructed in Chicago during World War II by the federal government. At the time of its completion, it was the largest complex constructed specifically for African American families. It's composed of 14 blocks built up with two-story row houses, kind of like these, while the shop building and schools were also part of the development. So it was a bit self-contained, and that was necessary. That was required by its geographic isolation. But it was also a quality that aligned with concepts for public housing that CHA Executive Director Elizabeth Wood had been promoting since the 30s. She had urged CH planners to, quote, include shops, churches, parks, even pubs to turn housing complexes into real neighborhoods instead of human warehouses. So the shop building was part of that. It provided easy access to a grocery store, drugstore, tailor shop, doctor's office. As such, the building manifested that priority of Altgeld Gardens as a whole to be a successful community. The shop building was part of that. This article from Architectural Forum in 1945 noted that the shop building was a well-designed, highly functional building that helped create the full community for the family that Altgeld. A big part of the heritage was an important early tenant in the shop building from 1945 to 1951. It was known as the Altgeld Gardens Consumer Cooperative. This was a nonprofit grocery store owned and operated by Altgeld residents. As a Black-owned co-op, the Altgeld Cooperative was part of a larger movement in Chicago in the 1930s and 40s that offered economic independence for African Americans. As a self-contained community of approximately 7,000 people, Altgeld was an ideal setting for a co-op. And by 1947, this co-op was the largest store of its kind in the nation. Wilmoth Bowen, the co-op's general manager, and William Lee, shown below, managed the grocery department. Both had experience in training in co-op management at the national level. In addition to economic self-determination for the co-op's manager, Wilmoth Bowen, the store could also leverage Black buying power for civil rights. In 1947, Altgeld resident Mary Blake applied for a job at the Silver Cup Bakery. Based on her qualifications, she was asked to come in for a personal interview. However, after discovering that Blake was African American, the company withdrew its invitation, stating they did not hire Blacks. When Blake informed the co-op of this situation, store manager Wilmoth Bowen promptly placed this large sign in the store window boycotting the bakery's products. To get their bread back on Altgeld shelves, Silver Cup Bakery hired Mary Blake, and at the insistence of Bowen, expanded their hiring practices to employ African Americans. So Bowen's boycott campaign received similar campaigns by African Americans during the height of the civil rights movement in the 1960s. Another aspect of the building's heritage is this memorial wall, which has evolved over the last half century. The wall is a place of commemoration for community members who lived and died at Altgeld. After 17-year-old Sterling Jones, a member of the Black Panther Party, was shot and killed at Altgeld in 1969, his name was painted on the north wall of this breezeway. In subsequent decades, residents have added hundreds of names and messages to lost loved ones to this wall, making it an important memorial. Closely related with this heritage, you have also found building meets criterion 3 for its association with Hazel Johnson. During the last decades of the 20th century, the shop building housed the offices for People for Community Recovery. This was a grassroots environmental organization founded in 1979 by Hazel Johnson. Under her leadership, the organization worked with residents and stakeholders to address environmental issues at Altgeld. They fought against the expansion of hazardous waste facilities on Chicago's southeast side, and they also brought training and jobs to people at Altgeld. Johnson emerged as a nationally significant leader in the environmental justice movement in the 1990s. Her activism helped lead to important federal changes in environmental policy, including the formation of the EPA's Office of Environmental Justice. We also found the building meets criterion 4 for architecture. It's a rare example of modern commercial architecture in Chicago. I'm not aware of any building in the city that's quite like this. There's a design emphasis on function, also economy and passive solar design, which was a specialty of the building's architects, Chicago firm of Keck and Keck. This is obviously something quite popular now. It was not obviously in the 1940s. Low slung curved form, flat unadorned wall surfaces, large expanses of glass, scooping concrete canopy, all show the influences of European modernism, which the Kecks adopted early. Here's an early view of the building showing storefronts facing southwest to maximize heat gain during winter. This is one of the two narrow ends of the building. The heavy common brick walls regulate temperatures by storing heat during the day and releasing it at night. Here's the southwest elevation with the concrete canopy extending along its length to reduce heat gain in the summer when the sun's higher. The crescent shape of the building was a distinct departure from the traditional residential architecture at Altgeld. A closer view of that elevation showing the covered breezeway, which bisects the building and also contains that very important memorial. Going around to the rear or northeast elevation of the building, which rounds outward, the band of clear story windows lighting the backs of the shops. And of course, the building's signature canopy is a thin shell concrete structure from 1945. That would be a building technique that would be further deployed decades later by Bertram Goldberg. We found the building meets criterion 5 for its architects, brothers Keck and Keck, early modernists in Chicago. Keck and Keck mostly designed houses, and this is one of their very few commercial buildings. Brothers were partners for 50 years and produced some of the best examples of early modern architecture in the Midwest, and they were incredibly influential on a generation of Chicago architects that were working later. The work of Fred Keck first gained widespread attention in 1933 at the Century of Progress exposition at Northerly Island, where he built and exhibited two houses, including this one, known as the Crystal House, and this one, the House of Tomorrow, which has a 12-sided floor plan. Those houses at the fair led to a steady stream of residential commissions through the 30s and 40s. Most of the house designs, like this one employed passive solar design, which they also used as shop building. Keck and Keck's most personal commission in the 1930s was the Keck Gottschalk Keck Apartments in Hyde Park, which was designated as a Chicago landmark in 1994. That building is from way ahead of its time, from 1937. We also found the building meets That unusual criterion number 7 is a unique visual feature. Well, it obviously is, stands in sharp contrast to the more traditional buildings in Elkville Gardens. And it's a prominent, highly visible feature of the whole complex. With regards to integrity, you found that the building meets this criterion. Comparison of the historic photo taken soon after construction and today, 81 years later, showed that the building is held up pretty well after a long period of neglect. Obviously, the building has deferred maintenance, but it retains all of its significant features, including its great canopy, exterior walls, and flap. So to conclude, we recommend no change in the significant features that you defined last month. That would be all exterior elevations as well as the memorial wall. And so I'm happy to answer any questions from you.
Thank you, Matt. Does the commission have any questions for Matt? None? Okay, folks have given the public comments on this.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I just mention that with the Obama Presidential Center opening up this last few weeks, that Barack Obama had a significant contribution to Altfeld Gardens, working with Cheryl Johnson and her mother towards recognizing the amazing environmental justice components that she brought to the community. And former President Obama was very much involved in this community over time, working with the Johnson family. I just wanted to mention that. I think it's very apropos.
Thank you, Mr. Any further discussion? Having none, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the final landmark recommendation to City Council for the shop building of Altfeld Gardens. Commissioner Jacowitz, is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Burns. Commissioner Boatwright. Commissioner Blakely.
Yes.
Commissioner Fair.
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce.
Yes.
Commissioner Rubin.
Yes.
Commissioner Fowler.
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Next item on the agenda is a report from the public hearing, the final landmark recommendation of the Bryn Mawr Avenue District for the 48th Ward, primarily 900 to 1100 blocks of West Bryn Mawr Avenue. Alderwoman, did she say she was gonna?
She wants to go to an office meeting.
Oh,
That's me.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. This is a two-part public hearing that was held on June 15th. The first part of the hearing was regarding the proposed landmark designation of the Bryn Mawr Avenue District. The second part was regarding the proposed demolition of one of the properties in the district. These are two separate considerations for the commission, and therefore we'll need to take a vote on each of these separate things. First, we'll consider the proposed landmark designation of the district. Before I call on Commissioner Blakely for a report regarding the designation portion of the hearing, let me reiterate that the hearing was the forum for introducing evidence and cross-examining witnesses for the proposed designation. The commission has been given copies of the correspondence received as well as the transcript and exhibits from the public hearing. However, I will allow brief comments from the property owners and members of the public. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and I'll open the floor up for these comments after we hear from the hearing officer and staff. And with that, I'd like to call on Commissioner Blakely for the report.
Thank you. The public hearing on the proposed landmark designation of Bryn Mawr Avenue District was held June 15th at 10 a.m. City Hall, room 1103. The purpose of the hearing was twofold. First, to gather relevant facts and information to assist the commission in determining whether the proposed Bryn Mawr Avenue District meets the criteria for landmark designation set forth in section 2-120-620 of the municipal code, and second, to determine whether the building at 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue is a contributing building to the proposed landmark district. I was the hearing officer on behalf of the commission for both parts of the hearing. This report pertains to the first part of the hearing dealing with the designation of the district. Copies of the public hearing transcript and exhibits have been distributed to commission members. Originals of the exhibits have been made available to commission members at the Historic Preservation Division's office. The commission staff's presentation recommending the proposed landmark designation was given by Eilish Tuffy, coordinating planner of the Historic Preservation Division. At the conclusion of the staff presentation, the commission's rules and regulations allow property owners within the district, regardless of whether they request party status, to question the staff. A resident of the Bell Shore Apartments property at 1052 West Bryn Mawr Avenue asked how district designation would affect the Bryn Mawr and Bell Shore apartment buildings, expressing concerns about resident displacement. Staff responded the district designation would create no change in status and that individual landmark designation had already been granted previously to those buildings. The speaker was referred to staff to follow up on questions specific to housing matters. A member of the Edgewater Residents for Responsible Development asked why some buildings at the intersections of Ridge Avenue, Broadway, and Bryn Mawr were not considered for inclusion in the district, and whether they could be considered for designation. Staff responded that they were surveyed and the decision was made to align the district boundaries in accordance with the 1995 National Register nomination, which met established standards for district boundary delineation. Staff also stated that other area buildings could be looked at separately to determine whether they meet criteria for designation on their own. One representative of property owner of buildings located at 5614 North Winthrop Avenue, 1106 West Bryn Mawr Avenue, and 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue within the proposed district specifically requested and was granted party status by the hearing officer. The owner's permit application to demolish the building at 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue was the subject property of the second part of the hearing. Owner's counsel asked to have that expert witness's report on the building entered into the record for the designation portion of the hearing. The hearing officer agreed and the Department of Planning and Development, DPD, did not object. The party expressed that they were not in opposition to the district at large, but rather that with respect to the identification of 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue as a contributing building in the district. Testimony was provided by an architectural historian that the building at 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue was not a rare or unique example of classic revival architecture, that it was rated green in the Chicago Historic Resources Survey, that its setting and relationship to the street as a corner building has been altered by the recent enlargement of the adjacent elevated rail tracks, and that district buildings east of the rail tracks are predominantly larger historic high-rises. The DPD report was cited with a speaker testifying that landmark designation did not consider transit-oriented development policies of the department. Staff noted that based on archival maps and photos, 1114 West Bryn Mawr has always been situated adjacent to rail tracks, originally at grade and later elevated within the district's proposed historic period of significance. One owner of property within the district who did not request party status made statements in opposition to the district. Two members of the general public spoke in opposition to the district. Two shareholders of Edgewater Beach Apartments property within the district who did not request party status spoke in favor of the district. 8 members of the general public spoke in favor of the district, including Landmark Illinois, Preservation Chicago, the Edgewater Historical Society, and Edgewater Residents for Responsible Development. The total length of the designation portion of the hearing was 1 hour and 17 minutes. With the second part of the hearing, the total hearing length was 4 hours and 31 minutes. Based on the information and testimony presented at the public hearing, the record of the public hearing, and the entire record before the commission, I recommend that the district meets 4 criteria for landmark designations set forth in the municipal code and recommend that the commission recommend to the city council that the district be designated a Chicago landmark. Now I would like to ask Eilish Tuffy to give a PowerPoint presentation and staff recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon, Commissioners. The Bryn Mawr District consists of 3 city blocks from 900 through 1150 West Bryn Mawr Avenue in the Edgewater community area. Excuse me. The area is located in the 48th Ward, which is represented by Alderwoman Mona Hopperworth, who has supported the pursuit of this landmark district. The district boundaries include 22 buildings, 15 contributing shown here in black. The remaining 7 sites shown in gray hatch marks are non-contributing. The commission and the city council reserve the right to make a final determination in accordance with the landmarks ordinance on the non-exhibiting buildings. Here we see one view of the district from the elevated Bryn Mawr CTA platform looking east towards Lake Michigan. In its preliminary designation on April 2nd, the commission found that the district meets 4 criteria for landmark designation. Criterion 1 relates to examples of city heritage. The district traces its origins to John Lewis Cochrane, who is widely regarded as the founder of Edgewater. Cochrane relocated from the Philadelphia area to Chicago, purchased acreage near the lake to create an exclusive residential subdivision, shown here outlined in red on an 1885 map of what was then Lakeview Township. The land is bounded by Sheridan Road to the east, Foster Avenue to the south, Broadway to the west, and Bryn Mawr to the north, this area would become the first of 3 Edgewater subdivisions developed by Cochrane. Bryn Mawr Avenue has been primarily commercial street from the outset. The developer Cochrane commissioned this communal guild hall as the first commercial building on Bryn Mawr Avenue. At the same time, he paid to construct the first Bryn Mawr Railroad station, which can be seen in the background of this photograph. As is the case throughout 19th century urban development, construction of a train station as a commuting option for residents facilitated the growth and popularity of Edgewater as a railroad suburb. Seen here are 2 earlier versions of what is now the Bryn Mawr Red Line stop. On the left, the original 1886 Edgewater train depot, and on the right, opening day in May of 1908, when what is now the elevated system was extended north of Wilson with a stop at Bryn Mawr. In this 1913 photo, you can see the tracks were still at grade level at this time due to the raised gates, which are faintly visible in the distance just before the tree line as white raised gates. A year after this photo was taken in 1914, construction started to elevate this branch of the train system. This was done across the city by ordinance as a safety measure to reduce traffic conflicts at street crossings. Elevated Bryn Mawr Station was completed in 1922, which falls within the identified period of significance for the district. This 1928 Sanborn map illustrates the station at center and the adjacent fully built out blocks with lower scale buildings, creating a pedestrian friendly and transit oriented local commercial district as early as the 1920s. The district was found to meet criterion 4 as an exemplary collection of architectural styles which retain their quality of design and craftsmanship. The district is a distinctive and remarkably intact group of primarily 2 to 3 story flat buildings with 3 large historic apartment buildings built between 1897 and 1929. The district is distinctive for the fine detailing and craftsmanship seen in such building elements as cornices, windows, and doors. Overall collection of stylistic examples ranging from excellent to modest, illustrating classical revival, Queen Anne, Romanesque, Gothic, Mediterranean revival, and arts and crafts influences. And for the high quality use of materials, including brick, stone, terracotta, and metal. Here are examples of 1- and 2-story commercial buildings in the district dating from the 1890s to 1929. Ornament on these smaller mixed-use buildings typically appeared on the ground floor vertical piers, in horizontal frieze bands between the first and second floors, and often more prominently as decorative cornices and roofline parapets. The building in the top center of this slide and another on the far right bear the names of their original owners inscribed within their parapets. Style of ornament in the late 1800s and early 1900s drew heavily from historic precedent, often as decorative motifs from classical and Beaux-Arts tradition, such as the floral swags on the Michaels building cornice, the simple Greek key limestone parapet below, to the elaborate Baroque monogram in the upper right corner. 2 buildings in the district were purpose-built as recreational facilities. On the left, the 2-story classical revival style commercial building immediately east of the L tracks housed a billiard parlor and a dance hall on the second floor with various commercial tenants on the ground floor over time. On the right is a 1923 Venetian Gothic style building constructed as an amusement center. It was large enough for 20 bowling alleys, 34 billiard tables, game rooms, a restaurant, and 10 office spaces, in addition to the ground floor stores. Excerpts from a 1927 Chicago Tribune article with the headline, "Billiard Hall with Splendor of Movie Palace," stated, quote, "Entry will be gained through an elaborate lobby hung with oil paintings and tapestries, and the walls will be lined with elaborate high-backed chairs. Its design is reminiscent of Italian palazzos found in Venice." Seen here is the J.E.O. Pridmore designed manor house from 1908. This was a transition to the residential buildings along Bryn Mawr Avenue. The 3-story building was the first dedicated apartment building constructed on Bryn Mawr. The building was designed as 6 luxury apartments within its U-shaped building footprint. Each of the 3 floor levels contained just 2 apartments, which were 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and living spaces that included a front library and orangery sunroom in the rounded corner tower. Service areas were included in these units, but walled off from the site for the domestic workers. In the late 20s, when Chicago zoning code changes allowed for taller buildings, the 3 buildings seen here were built as high-rise apartment dwellings. Dating to 1927, on the far left is the Bryn Mawr Apartments. This is in the Gothic Revival style. It's terracotta, exhibits colonnettes, gables, arches, finials, shields, and projecting niches with pendentives. Also from 1927, in the center is the pink Edgewater Beach Apartments, built on the larger grounds of the Edgewater Beach Hotel. It was designed by Benjamin Marshall, and was listed on the National Register in 1994. On the far right is the 8-story Art Deco Bellshore Apartment Hotel, which was completed in 1928. Its style is Egyptian Revival in its terracotta detailing and its polychrome color choices. Seen here is the only religious use building in the district. And since the time of the hearing, we did actually receive a signed consent form from the church, which is necessary for the district. So the Edgewater Presbyterian Community House will be included within the boundaries of the district. It is a 52,000 square foot multi-use building with 4th floor ministers' apartments, classrooms throughout, plus a gymnasium and auditorium. While there is a worship space inside the building, the vast majority of the space is leased out to local nonprofits. The district was found to meet criterion 5 as the work of significant architects or designers. Benjamin Marshall is the architect responsible for the Edgewater Beach Hotel. Another property that Marshall designed is the South Shore Cultural Center, both in the Mediterranean Revival architectural style. Another prominent architect is J.E.O. Pridmore, who designed the Manor House. J.E.O. Pridmore was actually a resident of the neighborhood at the time when he designed this building and worshipped at another beautiful church just to the north of Bryn Mawr. The Edgewater Presbyterian Community House was designed by Perkins Fellows in Hamilton. We don't have pictures of Fellows in Hamilton. We need to put them. And he also, this firm also designed the Trumbull School, which is just west of the Bryn Mawr district on Clark, over in the Andersonville neighborhood, closer to Andersonville. The district was found to meet criterion 6 as a distinctive theme. The district displays a distinct visual unity based on the consistent scale, design, size, use of materials, and overall detailing of the district's buildings, which create a distinctive sense of place within the broader Edgewater neighborhood. This is, again, the view from the elevated train, just showing a mix of the lower scale buildings, and then to the east, closer towards the lake as you're moving east, the 1920s high-rise apartments. In terms of integrity, the commission found that the district meets this criterion. The most typical alterations to historic features over time are replacement windows on upper floors within the same rough openings and ground floor storefront modifications, both of which are common in commercial districts and can be rehabilitated over time as part of future maintenance and repair. To conclude, the commission has preliminarily identified the significant features of the district as all exterior building elevations, including roof lines, visible from the public right of way. And this concludes my presentation, and we seek your final recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. Thank you, Commissioner Blakely. Does the commission have any questions for Elise or Commissioner Blakely in this item? Commissioner Fair.
Maybe it's a point of clarification. I think there was some comments in Commissioner Blakely's report about the exact address of the property. I think it's like 1114. And the context of, being transit oriented design opportunities in the future. I just wanted to kind of tease that out a little bit more. I think it was mentioned that there were some examples of, that type of development being mindful or, occurring in landmark districts elsewhere. Did I hear that correct, or?
Maybe, can you say a little bit more?
I guess I'm specifically just interested in, with the elevated train track being such a predominant, element there. Just making sure there is that capacity, for kind of growth that may happen in districts, with this, decision that we made today.
Sure, okay. So the guidelines for development within a landmark district would allow for expansion. And with the building that was mentioned, 1114, in that particular case, the property owner has full control of that entire block, which includes 2 non-contributing buildings, which were approved for demolition. So collectively, the owner of the 1114 building has control of the entire block. So development can happen both on the to be cleared sites, as well as some expansion to the historic.
Thank you.
There were a few people that signed up to speak. Alderwoman Minna North was here. Are you going to be speaking?
I will speak on her behalf.
Okay, thank you.
She apologizes.
State your name.
Oh, yes, of course. Okay, hi, I'm Agnes Chan. I'm the Director of Urban Planning and Infrastructure for the 48th Ward Office for Alderwoman Minnehaha North. She apologizes. She had to go to another committee to meet quorum for that committee. I will read her statement. Thank you to DPD Historic Preservation staff for all of their hard work to move the Bryn Mawr Avenue district through the landmark designation process. Alderwoman Minna Hoppenworth office continues to fully support this effort. Commissioners, Alderwoman Minna Hoppenworth and the Edgewater community believe that historic preservation aligns with development and economic revitalization along this important historic commercial core of Edgewater. As part of these priorities for Bryn Mawr, we have filled vacant storefronts, opened a brand new fully accessible CTA station. We have invested and are continuing to invest in improving pedestrian and traffic safety and infrastructure on Bryn Mawr. And alongside our Edgewater Chamber of Commerce, we continue to work closely with and support property owners and business owners in this work. Regarding 1114 West Bryn Mawr and Harlem Urban Company's proposed development, our office supports a new mixed-use development at this site. And we continue to encourage the development team to work with city staff to seek appropriate design solutions that are in alignment with our proposed landmark district. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. We've had a couple people who signed up in favor of the project but do not wish to speak. Timothy Bateman and Catherine Gemperly. Janelle Sherrill.
My name is Janelle Sherrill. I'm a retired senior program officer from the National Trust for Historic Preservation Midwest Office. And I live in Inchburg, which are in the proposed district. I now also serve as co-chair for the Edgewater Historical Society Advocacy Task Force, which we formed to help revitalize Bryn Mawr Avenue. And I'm here to support the landmarking of the Bryn Mawr Historic District. Staff has done an outstanding job preparing the summary of information that clearly outlines the 4 of the 7 criteria that our district meets, along with a high degree of physical integrity. Obviously, this degree of importance demonstrates the need to care for and retain buildings in the district. We're also excited to have our neighborhood a local landmark district because it will provide property owners with financial incentives to help them improve their properties. And it will assure that the character of any new development in the district will fit into this wonderful historic corridor. So I thank you for your time and ask the commission recommends the city council grants permanent landmark status.
Thank you. Board.
Sure. Ward Miller, Richard H. Treehouse Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. We at Preservation Chicago strongly support the Bryn Mawr Avenue Historic District and have worked with many members of the community, the Edgewater Historical Society, and Alderwoman Minna Hoppenworth's office for many years on this. We also support the retention of the 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue building in the district and would request that the building's principal facades of the structure continue to be considered as part of this Bryn Mawr Historic Landmark District. Preservation Chicago would like to thank all of our community partners that we've worked with over the years, the Edgewater Historical Society, the Alderwoman's Office, the Department of Planning and Development, Commissioner Boatwright, and the commission members, all of you, for considering this as a landmark district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ward. Mariah.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Wong and members of the commission. My name is Mariah DeGrino from Crook, Fairchild, Duarte, and Barris. I'm here on behalf of the property owner Bryn Mawr 1100 LLC to respectfully request that the commission determine the building at 1114 West Bryn Mawr is not a contributing building to the proposed Bryn Mawr district. Ownership is not opposed to the designation of the district as a whole, but is opposed to the application of the landmarks ordinance to prevent ownership's construction of its 95-unit residential project known as The Gauge. This is a project that has been planned in coordination with the alderman for the past 6 years. The owner has patiently waited for CTA to complete its track and station construction project, meanwhile incurring over $6 million in costs designing and entitling the project. The project received ZBA approvals in February of last year, again, with the support of the Alderwoman. Building and demolition permit applications were timely filed earlier this year, and permits had cleared all substantive department reviews weeks before the preliminary district designation. To reiterate, the owner's permit filings were timed in order to meet the 1-year ZBA approvals deadline, not to beat the clock on this preliminary district designation. Given the 3-minute time limit here, I will use my time during the demolition portion of the agenda to discuss how the building is not contributing and therefore may be demolished. But with respect to the district, I would urge you today to delay the decision in order to conduct a more thorough assessment of how the district designation comports with the city's own planning objectives for the neighborhood, the approvals already granted for the gauge, and with the CTA's massive tract expansion project. These issues have not been evaluated or addressed by the proceedings. The city's equitable transit-oriented development policy promotes increased density near transit. The Broadway Land Use Framework, adopted by the Chicago Plan Commission in February of last year, specifically recommends higher density development of at least 5 stories near the Bryn Mawr CTA station. This owner has spent 6 years and more than $6 million pursuing a project that would fulfill these objectives in good faith and with the full support of the Alderwoman, the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the city's own permitting process. Freezing this underdeveloped 2-story property in a landmark district directly contradicts those policies, those ZBA approvals, and forecloses 95 units of much needed housing at a transit-rich location. Thank you.
Thank you. Nobody else has said to speak in this. Is there further discussion by the commission on this matter?
Excuse me.
Um,
No one took my page, but I want to speak.
okay, it's,
You want the
it's, go ahead.
Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Vicky and I'm here on behalf of the owner of the property of 1133 to 1137 West Bryn Mawr Avenue. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We appreciate the commission's commitment to preserving Chicago's history and we respect the important work you do. However, we respectfully continue to oppose the inclusion of our property within the proposed Bryn Mawr Historic District. Our building is a mixed-use property serving both commercial businesses and tenants, residential tenants. The decision made today will affect not only the property owner, but also the businesses that serve this neighborhood and the residents who call this building home. Historic designations brings permanent restrictions, additional review requirements, and increased costs associated with maintaining and improving properties. These impacts extend beyond the owner and can affect long-term viability of the businesses and residents who depend on this building. Our property has been responsibly maintained for many years without landmark designation. We believe this demonstrates the preservation and responsible ownership can exist without imposing additional regulatory restrictions. Because the commission has determined that not every property must be included, we respectfully ask that you reconsider the inclusion of 1133 to 1137 West Bryn Mawr Avenue and allow it to maintain outside the proposed districts. Thank you for your time and consideration for allowing our concerns to be heard.
Thank you. Any further discussion with the commission? No other people have signed up to speak. I'd like to request a motion to adopt the final landmark recommendation. I think Council of Bryn Mawr Avenue District is in motion. Commissioner Rubin, is there second? Commissioner Tolliver, do the roll call. Commissioner Jacobs.
Yes.
Commissioner Boatright.
Yes.
Commissioner Blakely.
Yes.
Commissioner Burns.
Yes.
Commissioner Fair.
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce. Oh, gee. And Commissioner Tolliver. Yes. You seconded it, right? Yeah. Okay, and I am a yes as well. And so that was unanimously. Now to the second portion of this. Item. The permit, this is the report for the public hearing and final decision on the permit application for demolition of October 2-120-740 through 2-120-825 of the municipal code. We'd like to address the subject of the second part of June 15th hearing, the permit for the demolition of 11114 West Bryn Mawr, the property located within the Bryn Mawr Avenue district. Before we begin this item, I'd like to note that the commissioners has been given the full record of the public hearing conducted on this meeting on this matter, including the transcript to review. Commissioner Boatright will recuse herself from the vote and step out of the room for this item. The commission's rules and regulations state that the commissioner of the Department of Planning and Development shall recuse herself from any vote by the commission and any final decision of a permit application. Thank you, Commissioner Boatright. I would also like to note for the record that the public had an opportunity to make comments on this permit application at the public hearing. The commission's rules and regulations provide that the commission shall only consider evidence testimony included in the record of the hearing in determining whether to approve or disapprove the permit applications. For that reason, we will also not allow additional evidence or testimony from the parties today. However, I will allow brief comments from the property owners and give any members of the public who wish to speak on this item. I'm also going to give the property owners up to 10 minutes on this item. Members of the general public are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. I will open the floor for comments after we hear from the hearing officer. And Commissioner Blakely, if you would go.
Thank you, Chairman Wong. The following is a brief summary of the chronology of events relating to the Commission's involvement with permit application number 101080940 for the proposed demolition of the building located at 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue in the proposed Bryn Mawr Avenue district. The demolition application for 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue received by Commission staff on May 1st, 2026, along with 2 other demolition applications for 5614 North Winthrop and 1106 West Bryn Mawr. At its regular meeting of May 7th, 2026, the Commission voted to preliminarily disapprove the demolition application for 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue and preliminarily approved the other 2 applications. The Commission found that 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue is contributing to the character of the proposed Bryn Mawr Avenue district, and its demolition would have an adverse effect and destroy significant historical and architectural features of the property and district. On May 13th and May 18th, 2026, Commission staff issued letters to the applicant notifying them of the preliminary disapproval of the application and of the scheduled public hearing. A public hearing was held on June 15th, 2026 in accordance with the Landmarks Ordinance and the rules and regulations. Bryn Mawr 1100 LLC, the owner of the property located at 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue, was represented at the public hearing by counsel. At the hearing, the applicants and the Department of Planning and Development were granted party status, presented their arguments and evidence, and called their witnesses. The public was also given an opportunity to provide statements. I have previously submitted to the Commission the record of the public hearing. Based on the evidence and testimony presented at the public hearing, the arguments of the parties, the record of the public hearing, and the relevant criteria for reviewing permit applications, I recommend that the Commission disapprove the permit application for the demolition of 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue. I have reached this conclusion based on the evidence. 1. Pursuant to the criteria for determining a contributing building within a landmark district set forth in Article 3, Section G.4 of the Commission's Rules and Regulations, I find that the building contributes to the character of the proposed Bryn Mawr Avenue district. 2. Pursuant to Article 3, Section G.3, Section B of the Commission's rules and regulations, I find that the demolition of the building would have an adverse effect on the proposed Bryn Mawr Avenue district. 3, I find that the demolition of the building would be contrary to the Commission's guidelines for alterations to historic buildings and new construction, specifically with respect to the portions of those guidelines relating to demolition. And 4, I find that the demolition of the building would violate standards 1, 2, 5, and 6 of the U.S. Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation and Guidelines for Rehabilitating Historic Buildings. I would like to add for the record that in preparing for findings and conclusions, I have reviewed the entire record of the public hearing. The Department of Planning and Development's proposed findings of fact and conclusions are consistent with and expand upon my findings and conclusions. Therefore, I recommend that the Commission adopt the Department of Planning and Development's proposed findings of fact and conclusions as its own. This concludes my statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Blakely. Any questions of Commissioner Blakely by the Commission? Having none, I'd like to ask the owner, so it's 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue, to make your statement.
Thank you. May I?
Yes, please.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Mariah DeGrino from Croke Fairchild Dorothy and Barris. I represent Bryn Mawr 1100 LLC, the owner of 1114 West Bryn Mawr, and the applicant for the demolition permit. I respectfully urge this commission to reverse its preliminary disapproval and recommend approval of the demolition permit. Before turning to the building itself, the commission should be aware of the extraordinary procedural history of this case. The owner acquired 1114 West Bryn Mawr and the adjacent properties in 2020 and has spent 6 years and more than $6 million preparing to redevelop the site with The Gauge, a 6-story, 95-unit transit-oriented development adjacent to the newly rebuilt CTA station. The owner followed every process the city requires. In February of last year, the ZBA approved variations for the project, endorsing specific project plans that contemplated demolition of all structures on the site. On January 28th of this year, within the 1-year ZBA deadline, the architect submitted a building permit application. On March 10th, the zoning department issued conditional approval of that permit application. On the same day, the owner finalized its construction financing term sheet with Associated Bank. The demolition permit application was submitted on March 16th to the city. Water had already been disconnected and rerouted from adjacent buildings in anticipation of demolition. All that remained was to disconnect remaining utilities, vacate the existing retail tenant, close on construction financing. It was not until March 24th, 8 days after the demolition permit was filed, that the owner first received any formal communication from Landmark staff about the district designation. Even then, the letter did not identify whether any of the buildings would be considered contributing. On April 2nd, the commission took up consideration of the preliminary report, identifying the building as contributing, and issued its preliminary recommendation to designate the district. It wasn't until April 17th that Landmark staff contacted the owner to inform them that the commission would exercise review authority over its pending permits, despite the owner having cleared all substantive permit reviews. In light of the substantial time and investment the owner incurred in pursuing this project prior to the commission's preliminary recommendation, and consistent with Illinois law regarding vested rights, the owner objects to the application of the Landmarks ordinance to its previously filed building and demolition permits. Without waiving these vested rights objections, the building at 1114 West Bryn Mawr does not meet the criteria for contributing buildings under the commission's rules and regulations. In order to be contributing to the district, the building must exhibit characteristics that reflect the character of the proposed district. The building must make, and these are words from the rules, must make an essential contribution to the qualities or characteristics that define the district. For this district, DPD has cited 4 criteria. Its value as an example of commercial and residential architecture around a commuter rail station, the district's exemplary architecture, the important architects who design buildings in the district, and the distinctive theme of the district. When the building at 1114 West Bryn Mawr is considered through the lens of these criteria, again, relative to the district, it is impossible to reach a conclusion that the building is essential to the district. With respect to exemplary architecture, the landmarks ordinance sets a high bar. Buildings must exemplify an architectural style that is distinguished by innovation, rarity, uniqueness, or overall quality of design, detail, materials, or craftsmanship. These features are on full display in the larger and architecturally distinctive buildings like the Bell Shore Apartment Hotel, the Bryn Mawr Apartment Hotel, and the Edgewater Beach Apartments and Presbyterian Community House. In contrast, the building at 1114 is a simple, two-story, flat-roofed commercial structure. The department's preliminary report notes the building includes a classical revival cornice, but the building displays none of the other hallmarks of that style. No symmetrical facade, no pedimented entries, and no columns. Nothing about the cornice is innovative, unique, or rare, much less embodying the essence of the district. This building is no different than any of the other vintage, utilitarian commercial structures commonly found throughout the city of Chicago. The building isn't even rated orange or red on the city's Historic Resources Survey. The building's architects are not cited in the preliminary report as important architects. The report notes that the building's architects are noted for building apartments, but 1114 isn't even an example of this. It was built as a commercial building. With respect to the district's value as an example of development around a commuter rail station, the CTA's replacement of the historic elevated track structure with a taller and wider concrete modern structure eliminates any relationship the 1114 building had to the rail line. The angled corner that announced the building's presence next to the rail stop now lacks any relevance and is instead literally overshadowed by the hulking concrete track structure. The new track placement in such close proximity to the building also raises serious questions about whether the building could be adaptively reused in a safe manner, given the city's code requirements relating to fire separation. Security issues are already evident, as graffiti on the building's parapet evidences unauthorized access to the building from the adjacent track structure. Even so, in light of staff's position regarding the application of the landmarks ordinance to this case, the owner has evaluated numerous design alternatives to incorporate the existing building or even just its facade into the new development. Given the owner's substantial investment of time and money, following the city's established process for its proposed development, none of the alternatives that would meet strict historic rehabilitation requirements are feasible. Denying this demolition permit directly conflicts with the city of Chicago's own planning priorities, encouraging residential density and mixed-use development near CTA stations. Recognizing that this development model creates additional community benefits, such as increased transit ridership, more walkable communities, reduced traffic congestion and greenhouse gas emissions, and adds to the city's tax base. The subject property is zoned B35, one of the most permissive zoning districts in the city, outside of downtown. The Broadway Land Use Framework, adopted by the Chicago Plan Commission last year, specifically recommends higher density development at a minimum of 5 stories, with a floor area ratio of 4 or greater near the Bryn Mawr station. Creating a landmark district that freezes underdeveloped properties in order to protect a common cornice runs completely counter to these policies. Again, this owner has spent 6 years and more than $6 million pursuing a project diligently and in good faith, with the full support of the Alderwoman, the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the city's own permitting process. Denying the demolition application ignores the city's policy framework, contradicts the ZBA's approvals, and defies the Alderwoman's support for a project to develop 95 housing units at a time when Chicago faces a critical housing shortage. I respectfully request that the commission recommend the demolition permit be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariah. Does the commission have any questions?
I have a comment.
Yes.
The last statement which said that the alderman emphatically, and that's not the word you used, but you used a synonym, gave her support does not corroborate what the alderman staff person said in this meeting. What she said is, I hope a workable solution can be arrived at. That's very different than an emphatic yes.
it is very different. It's very different from the support. that she
So I'm
received.
saying you misquoted the alderman when you said she emphatically gave her approval. That's
Mary-
not what was said in this meeting.
May I respond?
Yes.
What I said was that she gave her full support. And that has been her position as we understood it until this particular moment in time. So I did not misquote her, but
She gave
rather,
her full support that a workable solution can be arrived at. That's what was stated. So
I-
say the whole sentence, don't stop with support.
may I clarify? My remarks about her full support relate to her support of the project until the point in time at which this commission adopted its preliminary recommendation. Today, her remarks today, I was not quoting her remarks today. Her remarks today are different from her remarks to this developer for the past 6 years.
Questions on this? This is, a difficult situation. I do want to ask the question of whether, there have been schemes of incorporating this into, the project that had been working on. And you're
There-
saying that those have been kind of tossed out because of the CTA, changes or?
No.
Okay.
Let me clarify. The developer has looked at numerous alternatives that would incorporate anything from the cornice and the bricks into the new building to a facade sort of
Mhm.
kind of, I'll use the term facadectomy. I know that's not a good term to use, but it sort of conveys what we're talking about here. To also has evaluated what would be considered a full, adaptive reuse and including vertical additions and lateral additions that would strictly comply with the standards of rehabilitation. The standards, we've been informed by staff, would require a 30-foot setback from the back of the building, which is roughly half of the lot size, the lot depth. So it's an extraordinary setback. They have looked at a number of schemes from the bricks to the cornice to strict preservation and everything in between. And the versions that have been determined to be economically feasible are versions that would require demolition of the building. They are not able to, the schemes that would comply with strict preservation standards, including a 30-foot setback, would not be economically feasible.
Thank you.
So also in relation to this, the Egyptian Revival building that's immediately to the east of this. This is an 8-story building that's there. There is a precedent in the district for building higher, but from what I understand from reviewing the materials, and I think from what you were just saying, but just to say it in a different way, are you saying there's absolutely no viability to develop the 2 non-contributing buildings and build up to 8 stories, where the proposal is 6 stories, but the building right next to it goes higher than that? Is there no solution to be able to spare the historic building, which I will say was adjacent to the at-grade railroad tracks before the first elevated track? So there is a precedent for it being next to a large structure, even if it's getting bigger. But what is the hindrance to be able to develop a higher building, ideally matching the same number of units that were being proposed for all 3 buildings in a row?
So I'll go in reverse order. The comment about the existing or the previous elevated track structure, I would say there's the expansion sort of had a twofold effect. One is that it did bring it up higher, right? And it is now lateral with the building parapet. It also expanded it laterally over the 16-foot alley that previously separated that historic elevated structure from the corner building. And it's that lateral expansion coupled with the vertical expansion that really are extraordinarily impactful here and are of a very different character than the previous lower elevated track structure that existed there. So just want to clarify that point. The suggestion that they consider, can you sort of build higher to the east, I think is sort of what you're
Yeah, that's what I'm
suggesting.
saying.
Those are the schemes that they've looked at. They have looked at development schemes that incorporate the rest of the block so that you get the efficiencies of the entirety of the block. And it's those development schemes that have been determined to be not feasible because of the construction costs, as well as the offsetting the $6 million and the 6 years of time they've already spent in the site. Again, in good faith and reliance on the existing framework. So they have looked at those schemes that would, leverage the rest of the block that they do have. And then those schemes have included adding a story to the building, to the east, so that but then providing that setback. And again, those are not that economically feasible. The seven stories is the highest they could go under the existing zoning framework. I suspect the 8 stories was, a relic of an earlier, more permissive zoning scenario.
Aside from the cost of it, is there any structural issue with being able to
So,
develop? those two?
Part of the cost considerations here are that the existing building would require additional shoring, additional structural modifications in order to build on top of it. And even to just demolish the buildings around it, the existing building to keep it in place would need shoring. It's probably going to get the depth wrong, but it's not stable soils in this location, and this building would need to be would require additional structural modifications in order to just even just to keep it in place and demolish the buildings next door, much less build on top of it. The other code considerations relate to the fire separation that we mentioned. Now, because of that track structure being so close, 33 inches away, all 5 wanted me could just take a big step over. The code separation requirements under the building code related to fire separation also create additional considerations and concerns. There are existing windows on that western wall that if they were to try and adapt that building, may not meet the code requirements and may not just allow for a safe consideration. And again, the setback scheme, again, because you now have that lateral, the track structure so close laterally and vertically, by creating that setback, you've now created sort of a space that people can now dump from the track onto the top of the building. And now you've got then building components with windows and potential balconies that are going to be compromised from a security standpoint.
Are we saying that CTA overlooked the fire safety when they constructed the new track? It seems like it would go through enough permitting a process to make sure that's avoidable.
One would think. I can't speak to what was in CTA's mind when they decided on it. But.
Thank you.
Speaking to your point, there is a restaurant that's historic at 63rd and King Drive, Daly's.
Mm-hmm.
And when they built the new Daly's restaurant with apartments, that same closeness exists between the L tracks there as what you see here. And Brent, that they're not very old.
Right, and it also doesn't necessarily detract from the character of the transit-oriented development next to the track. It's very Chicago to be right up against, if not under the tracks as well. Okay.
If I could respond to that, the building that they have designed does go right up to the tracks. It's just been designed in such a way that with new construction, they're able to design it in order to meet code requirements and again, utilize urban space. It should be.
Okay.
I have 2 comments and then a question. I'm not sure whether it is for you or someone from the DPD staff. First, I just want to acknowledge Commissioner Blakely. This is a complicated matter and you put a lot of time into it. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. And in particular, I appreciate your recommendation about this because it's really helpful information for us as a team. There's lots of discussion that we've had today that is not specifically relevant to whether or not this is a contributing building to a historic district. And our job as a landmarks commission is to focus on whether or not this is a contributing building. So economic hardship aside, potential adaptive reuse or redevelopment of the property. I appreciate those comments and questions. I think they're very meaningful, but that is not our job today as a landmarks commission. The question that I have, it was very clear to me in Commissioner Blakely's recommendation, the statement of facts that the Department of Planning put together about this being a contributing building. What I didn't see in the demolition applicant's document, I assume this came from you all, it prepared a proposed finding of facts piece. It was designated as document 06B in our packet of materials, in the meeting materials. So, who prepared that document?
I'm not familiar with the 06B notation, so
The title of it is the applicant's proposed findings of fact.
I could be provided with a copy of just the concern, be happy to verify where it came from.
I believe, Commissioner, I don't have the full set of documents here, but what was forwarded in the packet to the commission last Thursday is your proposed findings and facts that you submitted via email. The numbering system is just based on our packet. So it was, there were three findings, the recommended findings from the hearing officer, the applicant's recommended findings and conclusions, and the DPD recommended findings and
So
conclusions.
I'm asking about the applicant's proposed finding of facts piece. So that was
Yes.
submitted, if it wasn't by you specifically, someone on the
It
applicant's.
was,
Yeah.
and it was included in the SharePoint file, it should be in there, yes.
So that, in that document, I would like to know who prepared that.
That was prepared by the applicant's team.
What are the historic preservation credentials of the contributing individuals to that piece?
The applicant's team presented the George Kissel, who is a respected, well-recognized planner, who has testified many times before and testified in this proceeding for this matter, testified many times before the Landmarks Commission, the Plan Commission, and many other bodies. His CD is part of the record of the data.
And could you summarize his credentials for us?
I can refer to his curriculum vitae.
It is. That's why I'm asking the question, because we know, as a commissioner, I'm aware of the credentials of the staff. I'm aware of the credentials of my fellow commissioner who presented a recommendation, but I'm not aware of the credentials of that individual. That's the question that I'm asking.
Just a very quick question. If you have access to the first packet that was sent on, what was the date? Approximately 1 week before.
Yeah. I read it when I don't recall seeing it there, so.
It would be part of the disclosures that you had, yeah.
So it is in that.
In that disclosure piece, yes. But I believe I also have a copy of the transcript here, if that helps.
Could you, because I don't have electronic access to that particular piece that we're referring to now, for my benefit and anybody else who's curious, could you summarize the credentials of the individual who prepared the proposed finding of facts? That is in disagreement with the staff and my fellow commissioners.
I would not want to do him a disservice.
Okay.
So if I am able to have a copy of, I don't know if we brought the record of today's proceedings here today, I'm happy to pull it up on my, if I can. I may have. Yes.
George Kissler, right?
George Kissel from Oak Kissel Associates.
He's a part of
Can you spell that?
Dairy Oakland.
Yeah. That's the Oak, yeah.
SSAL?
KISIEL. Oak Kissel Associates.
Just-
He has been associated with Oak Kissel Associates and its predecessor, Oak Associates, since 1982. Currently, he's president of that company since 2015. He's a licensed architect in the state of Illinois and a certified planner. He is a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners, American Institute of Architects, and the American Planning Association. He has a Bachelor of Architecture from the University of Illinois, Chicago, and a Master of Urban Planning and Policy from the University of Illinois, Chicago. He has about 3 pages of projects and lectures I can read off for you if that would be helpful.
Are any of them specific to historic preservation? And then when you talk about, you mentioned urban planning, you mentioned architecture. Those are all terrific. I'm interested in his historic preservation, whether it's education, experience, whatever is, I think would supports the case in that individual's proposed finding of facts.
He provided expert testimony in connection with the Near North Multiple Property District, the landmarks proceedings there. He provided expert testimony in connection with the James R. Thompson Center, National Register of Historic Places evaluation. Connection with the landmarks proceeding regarding the individual property designation for 1393 West Lake or 161 East Erie.
Most of those were in opposition, I believe.
Yes.
Most of those are what?
Most of those were opposite. The testimony that he had in those particular cases were in opposition.
To the landmark.
The landmarks proceeding.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
To your
recollection.
point.
Thank you, that's very helpful to know.
To your point, Commissioner Burns, I don't believe that he has any academic, or certifications in. You know, he's a certified planner.
Thank you.
What was your question?
That was it.
That was-
What are the historic
Okay.
preservation credentials of the individual? who,
Any other
there?
questions of the commission?
I just want to reiterate what Commissioner Burns said, that you know, given the introduced evidence and testimony relating to the economic considerations, proposed new construction of the building, and the viability of alternative designs that incorporate the building into possibly new construction, fire safety, and compliance with other city policies are not standards or information that we as commissioners are to rule on during our landmarks our responses to landmark.
Thank you.
May I make just very brief remarks in
Very brief.
response to this discussion?
Sure.
I think what you stated is perhaps accurate with respect to the hearing, the technical standards of the hearing itself, but this commission is a commission that is tasked with evaluating what's in the best interest of the city of Chicago. And the question today is not whether you can designate the building or designate the district, but whether you should. Whether it's in the best interest of the city of Chicago to do so. And what we're sitting here today telling you is that when you consider the district in the context of everything else the city is trying to accomplish regarding housing, equitable housing, transit-oriented development, promoting use of transit, sustainability, that this district should not be used to promote or prevent the demolition of this building.
Thank you. Okay. We had a number of people who also signed up to speak. For the record, Timothy Bateman wishes not to speak, but is in favor of not demolishing, so the staff recommendation. Janelle Sherrill.
Before my name is Janelle Sherrill. I'm a retired senior program officer for the National Trust for Historic Preservation Midwest Office. And currently serve as co-chair of the Historical Society Advocacy Task Force for the revitalized Bryn Mawr. Staff has very clearly described the importance of the Fisher Building as a contributing structure. Its location, its design, its size, its scale and massing, setting, materials, all contribute to the character of the district and therefore make it an important contributing building. I'd like to add that the historic value of the Fisher Building was identified in the National Register of Historic District listing from 1995. And that was brought to the attention of the Harlan Irving Company when members of the Alderwomen's Bryn Mawr Alliance met with Harlan Irving and pointed out the historical importance of the building and suggested that the developer look for ways to incorporate the building in the proposed development. You know, not simply using the facade or architectural features of the building, but using it, incorporating it into their construction. And And I want to reiterate, it's not that we're opposed to housing in the Bryn Mawr Historic District. That's not the issue is how do you incorporate a historic building into this housing development? And if Harlem Irving needs more ideas on how to incorporate it, the task force, and I'm sure the Alderman's office be happy to provide names of preservation architects who would be happy to assist them. So thank you. And again, I fully support the staff's and the Landmark Commission's recommendation to deny a demolition permit for the Fisher at 1114.
What date did you say that meeting happened? What date?
A year ago, spring. So it was before Agnes started working there in May, so it was before that.
James McKay.
Good afternoon, I'm James McKay, 20 years as an architecture instructor at various universities here in Chicago area, state, and also a former director of community engagement for architecture, terms of IIT. And I'm also a frequent patient of this area here. I simply support preservation of the facade of this building. I can understand that perhaps the building behind it is non-essential, but I feel the roof lines, it's my hope, based on my experience, the criteria, the roof lines as well as the general two-story nature of the building contributes significantly to the overall effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Nobody else has signed up to speak on this board?
Yes, I signed up as a number 4 and 5, just
Oh,
for the
okay.
record, all right? So Bert Miller with Preservation Chicago, and we just stand by our prior testimony supporting the Bryn Mawr Historic District and the retention of this building and its principal facades at 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue. We have seen in the past preservation of facades integrated into buildings. And I think most likely or most prominently of the Village Theater was originally the Germania Theater on Clark Street, where the facade was integrated into a very large apartment or condominium building at the corner or near the corner of Clark Avenue and North Avenues. And I think there's many examples of this. Perhaps there could be a little relief on the setback requirement, but that would be up to you as a commission and the city. But 30 feet might be something negotiable. Maybe something less than that, but I don't want to set a precedent, but I just wanted to offer that I think there's solutions to saving these facades and these roof lines, which is often the heart of what we look at when we look at landmark districts. We're looking at what people see from the right of way, what people see from the street. With the village facade, with the Village Theater facade, there's also problems with its structure, and part of it was carefully taken down, carefully reassembled in place, and it's really a beautiful entry to this large development behind. So I just wanted to bring that example before you, as that's an example of a landmark building where a small two-story facade was integrated into a large development. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other further discussion on this item? I do want to make the comment that this is very, very difficult. And Commissioner Blakely, thank you for your service on this. Serving us. Welcome to the commission. Some of the duties that you play. Yeah.
As a multifamily affordable housing real estate developer who's lost some deals after spending a lot of money. In the field, we call it dead deal money. That anytime we venture into one of these deals, there's the possibility that it will die. That's unfortunate, but it's the reality.
Well, I hope it doesn't die.
I understand. I hope this doesn't die. And as Commissioner Burton says, that's not related. But I'm just saying, that's the field. And we hope it doesn't happen.
And I would just piggyback off of Commissioner Tolliver's comment. I mean, we have a long precedent for projects that eventually make their way to permit review committee for, making some thoughtful decisions about, identifying solutions in these types of scenarios. And I think there's a lot of gravity, you know, in alignment with, you know, some of the transit oriented design, you know, decisions for this neighborhood that I think that there is a solution. I know that there were some examples that were presented in the exhibit that, you know, probably relate to how it's gonna pencil out. I don't doubt that there's gonna be a cost. I mean, if you had to raise the site versus keep a site, keep a building and buttress it to survive demolition around it, I mean, there's a cost there, but I do think that there is a solution to be had that maintains the building. I would, you know, share, I think the concerns and the comments just about, you know, the new CTA structure, you know, some legitimate stuff there. But, you know, with that being, you know, that facade along the train tracks, secondary in nature, you know, I think even there's probably some good design solutions that can still, you know, be reached there. So just more of a comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Fair. Anybody else? All right, well, thank you very much. We have gone through this. I'd like to request a motion that the commission adopt the hearing officer's proposed findings and conclusions in their entirety as the findings and conclusions of the commission. I note that by adopting these findings and conclusions, the commission will be disapproving the permit application for the demolition of the building at 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Tolliver,
Second.
and the second by Commissioner Rubin. Commissioner Jacobitz.
Yes.
Commissioner Blakely.
Yes.
Commissioner Burns.
Yes.
Commissioner Fair.
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce is left. You.
I'm Ruben.
I'm like, what's going on here? I'm a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. I'd like to explain, that the commission has disapproved the permit application for the demolition of 1114 West Bryn Mawr Avenue. What the denial means and what will happen next, as required by the municipal code. The commission responded to the receipt of a demolition permit for a property within the preliminary approved Bryn Mawr Avenue district by enacting an expedited process to consider both the designation and the permit. The commission held a public hearing on the designation and permit within 90 days of the receipt of the permit application, and now the commission must notify city council of its recommendation regarding the designation within that same 90 days. Failure to do so would mean the demolition permit would be deemed approved by the commission. Once relayed to the city council, that body has 90 days to pass the designation ordinance. If they do not pass the district designation ordinance within 90 days, the commission's transmittal of its recommendation, the proposed demolition shall be deemed approved by the commission. Well, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Schlitz Brewery Tide House. Citywide Dr. Landmark Falls application. And Dan, you.
Oh, it was great selling this. It was so. No.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to interact with Ellen Morris.
Like this on.
You would love to see
She doesn't that. What did I say?
Yeah, have some of that.
No, what? It's good. Well, now I feel like I should walk in. Thank you. Walk in the park after this.
She's right though. Okay, Dan, go ahead.
Hey, well, good afternoon, Commissioners. I am here today with a new Adopt a Landmark project that was part of the 2023 funding round. The project is for work to a Schlitz Brewery Tide House located at 958 West 69th Street in the 16th Ward Inglewood Community Area in the Southeast Planning Area. Here's a contemporary image of the building at left. It is located at the northeast corner of South Morgan Street and West 69th Street, again in Inglewood. For a little background, the Joseph Schlitz Brewery Company was founded in Milwaukee in 1849 and was one of a half a dozen shipping breweries in the 19th century, using pasteurization, refrigeration, and rail transportation to brew and sell far more beer than the local population of Milwaukee could consume. And Chicago quickly developed as a major market for the brewery. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, a combination of intense competition among brewing companies and increasing both legal restrictions and social pressures in public drinking establishments compelled brewing companies in Chicago, like Schlitz, to adopt a Tide House system. Developed in England a century earlier, the Tide House system involved the direct control of taverns not by independent entrepreneurs, but by large brewing companies which sold their products exclusively at their own establishments. The Queen Anne-style former Schlitz Tide House on 69th Street was constructed in 1898 and catered to the employees of the large industrial employers bordering Inglewood, including Union Stockyards, the center of the nation's meatpacking industry, and the Standard Oil Company, to name just a few. The subject Tide House was occupied until approximately 2010 and then sat vacant until 2018 when the current owner acquired it. Over the years of its vacancy, the building suffered from neglect. In 2022, with help from Landmarks Illinois, WJE performed an assessment of the structure on behalf of the new owner and prioritized the most significant concerns facing the building, namely the rear approximately 30 feet of the roof and the east parapet, which you can see from these photos is in extremely deteriorated condition. And here is a single image that captures the extent of the worst of the deterioration. So, DPD's Adopt a Landmark Award will focus on the scope of work in the drawings before you that will address those significant deterioration issues. First, the project involves a rebuilding of a portion of the structure's underlying structural support system, including the joists and internal framing on the first and second floors and the roof. Second, the structure will receive a complete new roofing system on the entire building. And third, the rearmost approximately 30 feet of the building's east parapet will be entirely rebuilt, salvaging as much of the common brick as necessary. Finally, other masonry work will be performed, including reattaching various limestone elements on the south elevation and addressing the deteriorated concrete exit stair conditions. The proposed budget for the project is before you now, and the total project costs are estimated to be $377,000 for this work, while again, the grant award is $250,000. Similar to all of the Department of Planning's Adopt a Landmark projects, the project will be subject to certain Adopt a Landmark conditions as well, including that the applicant shall notify commission staff of undocumented detrimental conditions found during the work. The applicant shall enter into an escrow agreement to assure that the landmark project is completed and paid for in a timely manner. And final payment from the Adopt a Landmark funds is subject to certification by the commissioner of the department that the project was completed in accordance with the requirements of the Adopt a Landmark funds, project scope of work and budget, the agreement, and the landmark guidelines. The owner of the building is the Inglewood Real Estate Development Corporation, an Illinois not-for-profit entity whose president is Jennifer Adkins. The project team included T.Y. Lin, who are the structural engineers, and Monica Chada and Ian Miley of Civic Projects Architecture. The proposed contractor for the project is Francis Construction. And that concludes my presentation. I know the project team, including Ms. Atkins, is here today as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Does the commission have any questions for Dan?
I do.
Yes.
Can you remind us how current this budget is? Because this was conditionally approved in 2023, correct?
This budget is very current. I'll let the teams talk about that, but they just went through their pricing to develop this very, very recently.
Actually, thank you.
Well,
And
even,
you could
even
jump in
more
on that.
current is that Schlitz stopped making beer. That's what I'm looking at. Yeah, really. But please.
Yeah,
Floor is yours.
the current budget was developed within the last 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
After, Dan mentioned the fact that WJD did an assessment, TY Land did a subsequent assessment to understand the structural conditions now, given the fact the building had sat vacant since that time, and water, weather, things like that happened in the building. So they reassessed it. That's what we based our drawings on. Scope of work, and then we approached Francis Construction to develop a budget with the new conditions.
That's great. Super helpful to know, both because we've looked at a couple of projects where the budget was several years old and then additional costs came out. So I'm really happy to hear about that as we look at a decision on this. And also, not only just within the past 3 years, but within the past few months, things have changed. So shout out to your team for being really on top of this.
If you could state your name and.
Ian Miley, architect at Civil Project.
Anybody else want to speak? Please.
Sure. So Jennifer Atkins, my crazy idea was to get this building and turn something beautiful for the community. So this property has an adjacent lot. So we're gonna have, Ode to the Beer, we're gonna have like a Oktoberfest on the lot down the road, of course. But this will be a beautified, building. There's like a lot going on in Inglewood right now, so this will be another footprint where people can come to, within communities, surrounding areas. It'd definitely be a destination spot for, people from Obama Center. They have another place to come to. So we are super excited to get this building open. Eventually, maybe a year and a half years, year and a half.
Thank you.
And can I just add one more thing, sorry, so Monica Chata, Seven Projects Architecture, the one thing to add, because I do appreciate the comment about the budget, is that the owner has been done their due diligence on ensuring that the project can happen, and he's done the hard work for that, and I just think that should just be noted, so I heard a whisper at one point, we understand that the allocated amount is different than the total construction budget, the client has been working diligently on. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Is the plan commercial?
Commercial, yes.
Okay.
Ward?
Yes, hi, for the record, Ward Miller, Richard H. Treehouse Executive Director of the nonprofit group Preservation Chicago. We are very much in support of this project. We've actually talked with the owner in the past. We know the architecture team quite well. This is a landmark in a neighborhood that's seen a lot of disinvestment over the last half century or more in Inglewood. And we really do believe this is really the sort of a last hope, if you will, for this building to receive an award and support by the city of Chicago. $250,000 doesn't go very far these days. And this is really has the opportunity to be a great attraction in the Inglewood community of Chicago. And it's also so important that we do support our Chicago landmark buildings. And we have several of these Schlitz Tide houses, which are being sort of neglected, if you will. The Tide House on Lake Street. There's one other as well, and it would really be wonderful to see this building restored and open to the public and be a true asset to the community, which we believe it is. So therefore, we support the adopt the landmark monies for this project. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Serving old Milwaukee. Just kidding. Just kidding. Nobody else is signed up to speak. Therefore, I'd like to request a motion to approve the resolution for a citywide adopt a landmark loan grant for the Schlitz Brewery Tide House on 958 West 69th Street. Is there a motion?
So,
Moved, Commissioner Burns, and second by Commissioner Fair, Commissioner Jacowitz.
Yes.
Commissioner Boatright.
Yes.
Commissioner Blakely.
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce.
Yes.
Welcome back. Commissioner Rubin.
Yes.
Commissioner Tolliver. Yes. And I'm a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. The next item is the citywide Adopt a Landmark Fund informational for a completed project for the Gannon Baptist Church of Christ building in the sixth ward, located at 6657 to 6659 South Harvard Avenue. No resolution for the commission for this agenda item. It's informational only. And Dan, you have it.
We're back in Englewood, just a few blocks away. So good afternoon again. I'm here with an overview for a completed Adopt a Landmark project for the Canaan Baptist Church building. Canaan was one of the 13 projects selected as part of DPD's 2023 funding round. The grant award for the project was $186,650. The church is located at 6659 South Harvard in the 6th Ward, Alderman Paul's ward in Englewood community area. For some quick background, again, constructed between 1904 and 1905 and designed by Solon S. Beeman, the Canaan Baptist Church of Christ building is a handsome, well-preserved example of the classical revival style, which greatly influenced American architecture during the early 20th century. The building was designated a Chicago landmark in 2006. And in addition to its exteriors, the building's sanctuary interior is a significant feature under the designation ordinance as well. The auditorium is shaped like a letter T with 3 shallow arms. The central portion of the room has a groin vaulted ceiling with 3 radiating arms topped by barrel vaults. The auditorium is furnished with curved rows of oak pews resting on a raked floor, which focuses the attention of the congregation toward the reader's platform in the center of the east wall. Unfortunately, while continuing to be great stewards of the building overall, the congregation of Canaan faced a continual challenge in retaining adequate seating capacity of the main sanctuary space. This was due to the extensive failures of the seating system. In front of you are sample images of some of the common types of failures that had occurred with the sanctuary seats, including broken arms, seat mechanisms, broken seat bottoms, and of course, worn out, cracked, and otherwise compromised cushions. So the Landmark project included fully repairing all broken seats in the main floor sanctuary space by harvesting parts from the seats that are highlighted in red in the floor plan in front of you. There were 84 seats in the harvest area. These areas of the sanctuary contain the seats that were the least usable for participating in worship services and other community functions that might occur in the building due to their poor lines of sight from the main pulpit area in the top middle area of the sanctuary. This, combined with a complete replacement of all of the original seat bottoms and worn cushions, resulted in approximately 783 of the 867 seats in the sanctuary to be fully usable once again. And now, this is one of my most exciting projects that I've worked on here. Here are some after images of the repaired and restored seats. Again, approximately 783 of the original seats are now fully operational and all have new wooden seat bottoms and new matching cushions. The grant award again was, and I think I misspoke originally, $186,750. The project came actually a little under budget. The contractor was Carroll Seating, and the original pro bono architects of the church was Nurture. And the third party architect was Susie Reinhold of Revive Architects. You know that Pastor Cherry has been sitting here very throughout the whole meeting. Here are just a few more images of the before. It really looks sweet. I'll just say it like that. And I'll be final. And to me, it looked like all the wood got all polished and cleaned up, but I guess not. It just always looked that nice. The seats made it look a little better. That concludes my presentation on that project.
I just wanted to say thank you all so much, Chairman, Commissioners. Just thank you all so much because this was really needed because of our seniors. We're very concerned about them because they literally are the ones that take care and support the ministry, so we just want to make sure that they were safe. So thank you all so much. Thank you.
Okay, permanent review committee report.
The permanent review committee reviewed 8 projects at its June 4, 2026 meeting. All 8 projects were approved with conditions, and the report summarizing the scope of the proposed projects and the committee's decisions was included in your packets. This report is for your information for the records.
Thank you, Emily.
For the month of June, staff approved 133 permit applications. A total of 169 reviews were performed by staff, and the average number of days to issue approval of corrections was 6.3.
Thank you. Any questions? Any comments? Okay. With that, no further business. I'd like to request a motion to adjourn. Anybody opposed? Before we do that, yes, I want to bring this up. That Alan Nellis, who was a frequent participant in this, he did pass away. When was that?
April 23rd.
April 23rd. And he will be missed. But he certainly added to the input of this commission for years. So thank you for, thanks for bringing that up forward.
Sure. All right, Commissioner Wong, point of business. Did you get a second on that motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Okay.
Anybody opposed? Okay, and Commissioner Ponce, I will move you to meet with Kendall on your votes that you missed. Okay. That's it? Oh, Commissioner Jacob.
Yeah, permanent review committee will meet at 3:03.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Wrapping it out. Sometimes it's a workout.
It's a workout.
Yeah.
Your 5-hour meeting was.
Oh, yeah. This wasn't so bad.
That was a good,
Stayed on topic.
I feel like every time.
I think so.
Living else could be.
Until the next. Right. For just now. I was like, it was gonna be too, but then when I read the transcript, I was like, oh, yeah, this. Or my statement of bachelor, for God's sake.
Even when I know, it's not just like, yeah.
Sure. I mean, if you're only the all the road, you just sit on it, and decide to like wire it every time, and I can like talk right out.
No, because I mean, the tricky thing about it is that this is, I know, a additional rescue. So she would have. The rest of it.